All right, so today we have up and coming artist Micah McLaurin. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for
well,
having me.
of course. Thank you for being here. So first off, tell me, who is Micah McLaurin and what is he all about?
Um, Lauren, good question. That's a loaded question. Micah McLaurin is an artist, a musician, and a pianist, and he's all about moving people through music and art.
Okay, perfect. So tell me, how did your journey with music begin?
So when I was 8 years old, my grandmother bought a new piano.
Hmm.
She gave us the old piano, an upright piano, and my mom I'm one of seven children, so my mom wanted to see if any of the kids were interested in the piano. So she got a book called Teach Yourself to Play the Piano. And then she tried to take each of us and introduce us to the book. And at first, I wasn't having it because I was annoyed that I had to sit down and read a book because I hate reading. So, um, but then when she stopped trying to get me to do it, I came to it on my own and I would try to figure out songs and play things. And I was just very passionate about learning.
Mhm.
So she got me a teacher pretty soon after that.
Awesome. So what was it about the piano specifically that you learned to love about it?
For me, the piano, the sound of the piano was always the first thing. And it's usually people say, like, oh, the sound of the piano is not that interesting. You should think of other instruments when you play the piano, or you should think that you're a vocalist. But I was always taken by the sound of the piano and the power and the beauty and the majesty of it.
Hmm.
And whenever I heard it on recordings, I would just light up inside.
Hmm.
So that was really the first thing that drew me to it was the sound, but then also the music itself, the music that's written for the piano is for me the best instrumental music. And you also get to play the whole song. You don't play just the melody or just the accompaniment, you play the whole thing. So you get to feel all of the music. You don't just feel the melody, you feel everything. You feel like it's all under your hands and it feels very powerful and inspiring.
Hmm. Awesome. Now, you've said in other interviews that you consider the piano to be a lifeline for you. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So yeah, when I was growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, it was very conservative and there were challenges growing up there. But I'm getting a little emotional.
Take your time.
The but the piano kind of gave me solace in an area to express myself when I didn't feel I had words or any other way to
Hmm.
communicate with people, and I really was able to communicate my deepest feelings and emotions when I played piano, and that's how I was able to connect with people because I would perform and then I would feel when I was playing, I would feel like whether I was inspiring them or not, or if they were feeling moved, it's you can feel it in the air and the energy.
Hmm.
And that was really special and that was moving for me. So that's what drove me to perform and keep going.
Hmm. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, what do you always hope audiences take away from your music?
Mhm. I always So music is very emotional for me and it gives me chills. I cry, I get butterflies. So I always want the audience to feel how I feel about the music, and I want them to take away some kind of emotional reaction that that takes them away from every day so
Mhm.
that they feel like they're in the moment or that they're just something takes them away from their everyday life or feelings and they feel like it, I want them to get so emotional that something happens in their body, like whether it's butterflies or chills or tears.
You want them to feel something.
Yeah.
Mm, definitely. Now, your most recent project is an instrumental cover of Marilyn Monroe's Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. How has that been received?
It's been going great, and I always wanted to do that song because it was different than anything I'd ever done. It's jazz, it's big band, but it's also virtuosic and pianistic.
Hmm.
So I had mostly in the classical repertoire, there's not really anything like that. So I had to transcribe it by ear and then from the original recording, and then I added my own stuff to it to make it my own. And yeah, it was really fun to play. I recorded it with the Royal Philharmonic and a big band in London at Abbey Road.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a really fun project.
Awesome. And can you talk a little bit more about how this song is the first step in your journey of rediscovery?
Mhm. So it's part of the album that I'm coming out with,
Mhm.
and all the songs on the album have some kind of connection to my musical story and my development. And that one in particular, when I first started arranging music a few years ago during the pandemic, it was one of the first songs that I tried to play by ear and would try to figure out and arrange.
Mhm.
So it was kind of at the top of my list for non-classical things that I wanted to perform and make part of my repertoire.
Awesome. And what is the title of your forthcoming album?
It's called Diamonds.
Diamonds. Okay, perfect. So
Of
how
course, like, all the songs are a gem to me. They're all like significant, like a precious stone.
nice. So how excited are you to release this full-length project out into the world?
I'm very excited. It's my first project that has my own arrangements, and so they've never been heard before because they're new arrangements, and it's exciting because when I play classical, I'm playing the same notes as everyone else. It's just a different interpretation. But with this album and these songs, it really is my own take on the songs,
Mhm.
and I had the freedom to reharmonize, to really reimagine them in a way that moved me and that I hadn't heard before. So I feel that it's something new to offer instead of playing the same thing as everyone and the same thing all the time and the notes never changing. But this was really special because I could create in it.
Definitely. And before releasing the album, you are releasing a new single next week called Moon River. What can
Yeah.
you talk about that?
So Moon River, I was introduced to Henry Mancini's music when I first started piano,
Hmm.
around 8. My teacher gave me his sheet music, and so I became really fond of his music early on, and I would read from books, his songs like Romeo and Juliet and Moon River. So I went back to when I first started and looked at songs that made me fall in love with music, and that was one of them. And it's an emotional song. It's very simple, but it's so direct and it communicates with everyone. So I wanted to keep that simplicity and that direct communication, but also make it my own and make it new.
Awesome. Fantastic. So, since moving to New York and being embraced by the queer community, how would you say your art has evolved?
Mhm. It's evolved in a way that I never imagined, maybe that I subconsciously imagined, but not that I was thinking would happen. Because when I was in the Curtis Institute where I did my undergrad,
Mhm.
the prestigious conservatories of the world, so the whole focus was performance and concerts and becoming a concert pianist and interpreter. So following the path of legends like Lang Lang and Yuja Wang and Leonard Bernstein. Um, so that's my entire focus was there in performance. And then I moved to New York because, well, I moved to New York for Juilliard,
Mm.
and I was really hungry for experiencing life and experiencing other sides of music and meeting people outside of music.
Mhm.
And that shaped the next part of my musical journey because I started to discover dance music and clubs, and I saw a different side of music, and I saw how people were so moved by this other side of music, and I really became curious and kind of driven to incorporate that into my musical life.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have been described as the Liberace of the millennial generation, and you have collaborated with so many people from Grammy-winning artists to the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, like you said. What have you personally been taken away from all these experiences you have done?
Mhm. From the experiences with all that, what have I
Mhm.
taken? Um, well, so much. I mean, I love being compared to Liberace. I think he's an icon, and what he did was actually phenomenal, and nobody's ever been able to replicate that because he took classical music and popular music, and he was relevant, and he's in a way that he's still talked about today. Like people mention him
Mhm.
on Drag Race, he's mentioned in pop songs by Lady Gaga, and so he's still referenced in pop culture, and he's been dead for decades. But I think that what he did was ahead of his time, and it was legendary, and people kind of laughed at him at the time, and especially other musicians. They thought it was cringe and cheesy, but I think that he was very talented and he followed his own path, and he really stayed true to his intentions and his instincts, and I think that that was why he was so successful.
And now you're doing the exact same.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
I'm just following my instincts and my desires. So
That's what you
yeah.
need to do. Yes. Well, can you talk more about how you infuse high fashion into your performances and why that is an important aspect to your artistry?
Yeah, so it started when I was maybe 13 and I saw a pianist who wore a sparkly jacket. And I was always taken by sparkly things. I always loved jewels, especially when I was like, even when I was 3, I remember loving rings and jewels and jewelry. And I saw this pianist wearing a sparkly jacket, and I asked my mom, where can I get something like that? And she said, oh, you have to go to New York and get designer stuff. Um, then I started Googling where to find it, and I did later on, obviously, but not back then. And it's so standard in classical music to wear like um just black or kind of funeral kind of clothes, like black suits, nothing flashy, nothing showy, not to draw attention to yourself.
Hmm.
So I really wanted to break free from that and really express myself visually because I felt stifled. So that's when I started to embrace the fashion and use it as part of the performance because I think that when you go to a performance, you don't want it to feel like something that you see every day. You want to elevate it and give people an experience that takes them away from anything that they're troubled by or just like gives them a fantasy. So I feel that fashion and costumes really give that extra level and layer.
Definitely. Now, Zaldy is your primary costume designer, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, what is it about their work that you enjoy the most?
I started collaborating with him during the pandemic and we really connected. And like I didn't even have to say much. He just would make things that I would just be so in love with.
Hmm.
So we developed and kept working together and did projects like we did a music video, Rhapsody and Gaga,
Hmm.
and it just kept going. And we did the visuals for this instrumental album, and they're very exciting. So the looks were created with each song in mind, and yeah. They're
Oh,
very colorful, a lot of jewels, a lot of sparkles. So
sparkle.
everything I could dream of.
Awesome. And you're also gearing up for a New York Fashion Week show with the legendary fashion director Nicola Formichetti. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, tell us some more about that.
Um, it's my first time doing Fashion Week in New York. Um, I went to a show, Palomo, last February, but I'm going to a couple this weekend, and it's really exciting to work with someone like Nicola, who has worked with people I admire, like Lady Gaga, and he's done so many amazing things. So I'm very honored to be working with him.
Awesome. Well, Micah, what are some future goals you hope to accomplish with your career?
There's too many to name. But of course, I would love Grammys. I would love to play big venues and tour. I love live performance. You get an energy that you don't get in the studio, which is a different experience.
Mhm,
Also a very valuable one, but it's not the same as when you have the energy from the audience and you feel the connection with them.
definitely.
So I look forward to touring and bringing new music, original music, and just keeping my creative juices going and making the best music I can.
Perfect. Then how can one stay up to date with you the best?
My social media, Instagram, Piano Micah, TikTok,
Mhm.
same username, YouTube, all of that, my website,
Okay,
all
perfect.
the announcements and drops there.
Awesome. All right, then before we wrap up, are there any other upcoming projects or anything else you'd like to mention or plug at this time?
Well, I'm learning a new instrument, so I have some exciting stuff coming in the fall after the piano album.
Okay, fantastic.